It's 5 p.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria. Time for the world today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up on the program. Deadly flooding in Spain leaves at least 62 people dead. Plus, British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves delivers Labour's first budget in 14 years. Let's begin the world today. To one of our top stories today, the death toll has gone up to 62, the number of people killed in floods in southeast Spain. Rescue teams are working hard to find those feared missing. Earlier, King Felipe VI spoke of enormous destruction to infrastructure and warns there is difficulty in accessing some areas. This was made known in a television broadcast. He expressed his condolences and that of the Queen to all families affected. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez followed shortly with his press briefing, in which he warned citizens to remain careful, assured those in affected areas they will not be abandoned. He also promised to rebuild infrastructure that has been destroyed, adding those who are still looking for their loved ones, the whole of Spain weeps with you. Minister for Territorial Policy and Democratic Memory, Angel Victor Torres, says the country will be observing 3 days of mourning, starting from Thursday until Saturday. Survivors of the floods in Spain have been speaking about their experience. One of them said he'd been through hell overnight. He spent the night on a shelf trapped in flood water at the gas station where he used to work in Valencia. He said the gas station disappeared in a matter of hours. Members of the Spanish military emergency unit have been on the lookout for the elderly, especially. And then we're looking at the rescue by firefighters of people trapped in cars on the road. Firefighters attended to at least 150 incidents like this caused by flooding. Local media reporting a truck driver was missing. Incredible pictures of the floods in Spain. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has offered help to Spain from the European Union. Earlier today, she announced the EU was ready to help and had activated its Copernicus satellite system to help coordinate the rescue teams.
Is devastating. Entire villages are covered with mud. People seeking refuge on trees and cars swept away by the fury of the waters. Tens of people have lost their lives. Thousands are displaced. And therefore our thoughts are with the victims and with the families and their friends, but also with the rescue teams. The rescue teams are working tirelessly to bring as many as possible to safety. And Europe is ready to help. We have activated our Copernicus satellite system to help coordinate the rescue teams. And we have already offered to activate our civil protection mechanism.
Thanks for staying with us on The World Today. We continue our coverage of the floods in Spain. Much earlier, we saw those incredible pictures of the floods as they rushed through the city of Valencia and incredible rescue efforts by the rescue teams. The VOA's Ricardo Maquina joins us now. Ricardo, we hope that you are safe. From the look of things, you are. Tell us what you've observed, however, in the last 24 hours following the severe flooding.
Hello. Thank you for having me. We are very far away from the point of the storm of Valencia. But anyway, here we saw a very strong storm for the last 12 hours. But of course, we are following minute by minute what is happening in Valencia, and not only in Valencia, in other regions as well. And we see a catastrophe as we didn't see for almost for all my life. I'm 45 years old, and this is the biggest catastrophe in the last 42 years. So is one of the most critical moments for all Spain, especially in Valencia and also in Almeria and Castilla-La Mancha. And we saw a country that is absolutely overcome by the situation, a service that the rescue service that cannot fit all the needs that the people have, and a situation that will be with us for the next weeks, I'm sure.
How much rain fell on Tuesday, Ricardo? And, we're looking at the deluge. Was that really caused by flood waters, or this is, rivers and streams overflowing their banks as well and joining to make things worse?
Well, it's a catastrophe that is ongoing. So this is still happening. So that we have 4 regions in orange situation, 1 in red alert, 2 in red alert. Sorry. So it will keep going for the next 12 hours. The amount of water that is in different regions, I don't have this data. I'm sorry, but for sure, if we get the information that the Ministry of Internal Affairs gives us to the media, we are facing the biggest floods in the last century, so the last 100 years. More than, for example, when the Turia, the river that crossed Valencia, was covered almost all the city of Valencia. I suppose we will have a clear picture of the magnitude of this catastrophe tomorrow, more or less this time, because we expect the experts expect that the next 12 hours will be critical, especially in the south of the country, and after that, this storm will go away to the ocean. So I suppose we can have more data, more specific in the next 24 hours.
How much rain fell on Tuesday, Ricardo?
The biggest that they in Valencia region, not in Valencia city, that is very important, but because this storm crossed over Valencia in the north, is the biggest raining in the last 42 years. It break all the registers that we have, and I don't have, unfortunately, the exact number of how many liters by meter fall down in the last night. But the Ministry of Internal Affairs and also the emergency workers tell us that is the biggest rain in the last 40 years.
The King and the Prime Minister spoke earlier today. They sent their condolences to people who were affected by the floods. But according to the Prime Minister, people still need to be careful. Is this warning only for those in Valencia or for the surrounding areas?
No, Valencia is still is now in orange. Some parts that are in red alert, but now the storm is moving south. So Cádiz, Jerez, also Castilla-La Mancha, the other regions west south of the country, some of them that are in red alert. And this red alert is for the next 12 hours. So this night will be critical, and the authorities ask people to be at home. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of people ignore the alert that given 12 hours ago by the authorities, and they drive the cars. So much of the death we saw today, these 70 plus people that die, confirmed death till now, is people that were in their cars in the moment of the floods, of the heavy rain. So people that ignore or didn't know that the region was under alert. Now, especially Jerez and Cádiz, they are in alert in the south of the country, and the authorities ask everyone to keep safe, keep inside.
Yeah. It will be important to stay indoors, especially as one is unaware really the extent of the damage outside or how terrible the floods are. But the number of weather events we've had this year in Europe have ranged from extreme heat to wildfires. There have also been extreme flood situations in some parts of Europe. Germany, I think one of them, and now in Spain. Has the government, in anticipation for situations like this, were there measures in place to help lessen the impacts of events? For example, was a storm expected, and were there measures in place to help people? Were they told to evacuate at least before the storms began?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you very much. Because the last catastrophe of this kind, so 40 years ago and 70 years ago, all happened in the similar area, in the area between Valencia and Castellón. So Valencia and the north of Valencia is an area that is in the way of this storm that comes from the Mediterranean, that we call in Spain Dana. So it's not the first time, but it's the first in 40 years. I'll tell that is the biggest one. So yes, what in place was a early alert system that worked between 6 hours prior the beginning of the rain. Obviously, that was not enough. And obviously, was a lot of people that dismissed this alert as something that is not so serious. So we have the biggest catastrophe in a lot of years, in decades. And it's because we can, of course, have a lot of responsibility people for this, but we can now see two key factors. One, the alert was late, only 6 hours, and not enough, maybe not calling the people, not SMS to the telephone of the people. And second, and very important, a lot of people ignore this alert.
Yeah, and now they have to bear the consequences, unfortunately. Those rescue services, the firefighters out there doing a great job trying to reach, we've seen those incredible rescues, them going about with the helicopters and trying to reach those who are stranded. People surrounded by mass bodies of water. And there we see a firefighter just trying to get down to rescue a man who's on what looks like a lone island, of course, being surrounded by water. How difficult is this for them, having to embark on this sort of operation, knowing that, they really haven't experienced anything like this in modern times?
The fire workers, the army, and the different paramedics that are working, they are capable enough and they are well trained. I know them personally. Part of my family is fire workers, so I know they are ready. The point is there are not enough. So all the firemen from Valencia and Castellón, they are working, and no one of them is still at home. But they're not enough. So people from Zaragoza, from Madrid, fire workers, paramedics, military personnel, they are traveling to Valencia right now. But the Dana, the storm is moving south. So maybe these workers will be needed in the next 24 hours in the south. There are not enough hands to handle the massive destruction that we see today. So it's extremely hard and extremely difficult to this rescue people to work. But they are used to. There's people that work as volunteers in Afghanistan, in Haiti a few years ago. So people are ready, but there are not enough.
Yeah, it will take some time, as you said, to determine the extent of damage, as well as the extent of needs that will emerge from the situation. Ricardo, thanks again for speaking with us, and do stay safe.
Thank you for having me.
Well, in Argentina, 4 people have been arrested following investigations into a hotel that collapsed in the city of Buenos Aires. Minister of Security of Buenos Aires, Javier Alonso, said the judge confirmed the arrest of the 4 people for manslaughter, saying they are advancing in the investigation with the architects responsible for the previous works and the current works. Mayor of the city of Villa Gesell, Gustavo Barrera, and the Minister of Security for Buenos Aires province are concerned about irregular construction work potentially carried out in the building after visiting the accident area. Rescue workers descended on the rubble of a collapsed hotel. They were looking for survivors. An 80-year-old woman was rescued with the help of a camera-equipped catheter, and the body of an elderly man recovered at the hotel in Via Gesell. The 10-story Dubrovnik hotel in the coastal city collapsed early Tuesday. Up to 15 people are believed to have been inside when the incident happened. Meanwhile, Albania police scuffled with opposition protesters who blocked the primary road leading to the capital Tirana for 3 hours on Tuesday. The demonstration followed the arrest of former President Ilir Meta on corruption charges. Meta, who also presides over the second largest opposition party, the Freedom Party, was arrested on October 21st. He faces charges of passive corruption, failure to declare his wealth, and money laundering. Meta has denied all the allegations, accusing current Prime Minister Edi Rama of manipulating the prosecution against him. The opposition also blocked other major roads nationwide. According to the media, 12 protesters were apprehended in the town of Elbasan. Unrest also reported in Bolivia, where blockades in the country took their toll on transport routes and supplies in the South American country. Demonstrations taken to the streets to defend former President Evo Morales and calling for current President Luis Arce's resignation. Bus drivers were stalled after supporters of Morales placed rocks to impede traffic. One local business owner said her shop was running out of supplies. Miners, farmers, and other pro-Morales supporters defended the former leader against sex abuse accusations. They held slingshots and waved Wipala flags while chanting slogans against the current government. We're warming up to November 5 for the U.S. election, and both the Republican and Democratic presidential candidates are making closing arguments this week. On the Republican side, former President Donald Trump sought to move on from the racist remarks made by allies at his New York rally on Sunday by thanking Latinos for their support at a rally in Allentown, Pennsylvania on Tuesday. Trump also claimed he's done more for Puerto Rico than any other president. He, however, did not comment on the remarks made by speakers at the Sunday event where comedian Tony Hinchcliffe called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage and disparaged Black Americans, Jewish people, and Palestinians and Latinos. President Joe Biden drew ire, however, from the Trump campaign for remarks he made about the Sunday rally during a fundraising call on Tuesday. According to a transcript posted by a White House spokesperson on social media X, President Biden said, "The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos, it is unconscionable and it's un-American." During the Trump rally, Senator Marco Rubio stepped up to the stage and informed the former president and the crowd about Biden's comment.
And the third reason would be they hate our country, because who would want to have millions of people coming into our country? Many of them are murderers, many of them are terrorists, many of them are gang members from the street MS-13 and almost worse. You know, the Venezuelan gangs are almost worse. And these countries are taking their prisons and they're taking their prison population, putting them in buses, and bringing them to our border. Venezuela's got half their prison population has been brought to the United States of America and dumped like we're a garbage can, for their people. And we have a real problem. We have to take these criminals out of this country. We have to deport these criminals, and we're going to do it. This is the biggest senior issue. This is the biggest issue we have. They're destroying our country. They're ruining our country. You're not going to be able to walk outside anymore. I know Putin would never have done it if I was president. There's not even a chance. No, it's not a chance. I used to talk to him about, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. I know it was the apple of his eye. I'd say, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. Oh, this is going to be terrible, Vladimir, if you do that. It's not going to be good.
Democratic candidate Kamala Harris vows today to serve all Americans if elected president. She sought to contain fallout from the remark by President Joe Biden who threatened to undercut her message of unity. Harris is spending the final week of the campaign telling voters that she would respect those who disagree with her and portraying former President Trump as a threat to democracy.
One week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates. It is a choice about whether we have a country rooted in freedom for every American or ruled by chaos and division.
With the election just days away now, officials in the most competitive battleground states are bracing for misinformation, conspiracy theories, threats, and possible violence. In Philadelphia, for instance, Detroit and Atlanta, three of former President Donald Trump's favorite targets for false claims of voter fraud, officials have fortified their operations against a repeat of the chaos of 2020. Philadelphia's ballot counting warehouse is now surrounded by fencing topped with barbed wire. In Detroit and Atlanta, some election offices are protected by bulletproof glass. In Wisconsin, election workers have been trained on de-escalation techniques and polling stations rearranged so workers have escape routes if they are menaced by protesters. In Arizona, an epicenter in 2020, for false claims by Republicans about rigged voting, the Secretary of State is working with local officials on how to respond to misinformation, including deepfake images of purported fraud. As opinion polls show, Republican Trump and Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris are neck and neck heading into Tuesday's vote. Officials say there's only one thing they can't predict or control, and that is what Trump and his allies might say on election night as votes are still being counted.
In the building where we do the actual work here on the boulevard, we've replaced all of our first floor windows with bulletproof windows. We have updated our security camera system. We have updated the number of security plainclothes as well as uniformed. And we're just making sure that we're all safe. I think he's the type of person that thinks that he can easily intimidate Detroiters because we're a predominantly black city. But we're not intimidated by him at all. And I think we proved that in 2020 when they tried, him and his group of friends, I guess, supporters, they tried to intimidate Detroiters as we were counting the ballots at TCF, but we aren't intimidated by him at all.
Away from U.S. politics, Britain's new finance minister, Rachel Reeves, announced the biggest tax increases in 3 decades in her first budget, as she accused the Conservatives of leaving public services broken when they lost July's election after 14 years in power. The UK's first female finance minister said she would raise taxes by £40 billion a year, much of it falling on businesses to cover a £22 billion shortfall inherited by her Labour Party, the lack of compensation payments, including for victims of an infected blood scandal, and underfunding of public services. Reeves has said she will not let public debt balloon, mindful of how former Conservative Prime Minister Liz Truss sent the bond market into a tailspin 2 years ago with unfunded tax cut plans. Initial reactions to Reeves' speech suggested investors are taking the plans well, with government bond prices rising further as she addressed Parliament today. The US and South Korea's Army aviation units have staged a joint live-fire drill to demonstrate their commitments to maintaining a strong defensive posture amid tensions on the Korean peninsula. The exercise, conducted by the 2nd Combat Aviation Brigade and 2nd Infantry Division of the Republic of Korea, US Combined Division, took place at the Rodriguez live-fire complex in Pucheon, north of Seoul, less than 30 kilometers from the heavily fortified border with North Korea. According to Lieutenant Colonel Silver Bryan, the purpose of the exercise is to test the combat readiness not only of U.S. aviation, but also of the Republic of Korea aviation and the partnership together. It comes as Seoul and Washington have said North Korea sent troops to Russia for possible deployment in Ukraine, which could mean a significant escalation in their conflict. Pyongyang says any move to send its troops to support Russia would be in line with international law.
The purpose of today's exercise is to test the combat readiness not only of U.S. aviation, but also the ROC aviation and how we partner together.
Welcome back. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and U.S. President Joe Biden have held conversations over telephone today. In the 30-minute phone call, President Joe Biden thanked the Nigerian president for the release of Tigran Gambarayan, the executive of Binance Holdings, who had been on trial in the country for money laundering and currency speculations. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, who spoke with journalists at State House, said the two leaders discussed areas of partnership and cooperation, including the issue of security in Africa and in West Africa. President Tinubu launched the 2025 Armed Forces of Nigeria Remembrance Day emblem and appeal fund in the State House. Our correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has more.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs arriving to speak with State House correspondents. He gave details of the 30-minute phone call President Tinubu received from the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
President Biden proceeded to thank President Tinubu for his partnership and for Nigeria's partnership, and in particular for the collaboration between the two countries with regards to law enforcement and law enforcement agencies, as well as the release of one of the suspects of the cryptocurrency exchange company that we're all aware of here.
The minister insists due process was followed in the release of the Binance executive.
Of course, there were diplomatic exchanges also and discourse that resulted in resolving that, but it was not purely that. It was also Nigeria following due process and abiding by a rule of law.
Earlier in the day, President Tinubu had led top government officials in the launch of the 2025 Armed Forces of Nigeria Remembrance Day emblem and appeal fund.
It was deep honor
The Minister of Defense, who kicked off the event, thanked President Tinubu for his continued support of the welfare for members of the armed forces and their relations.
This appeal fund we are launching today to provide essential support to our veterans and their families became crucial. The funds raised will directly contribute to welfare programs, offering vital services such as healthcare, education, and financial assistance.
For the president, it is an opportunity to acknowledge the contributions of the armed forces to the development of the country.
No matter what economic theory we propagate or postulate, if we have no security, you cannot promote peace and development. I'm grateful to all of you on behalf of the country. We take today to remember our fallen heroes who had sacrificed their lives, men and women, for the unity, stability, and progress of this country.
With the launch of the emblem, the president and others are decorated.
I therefore take the opportunity to launch the emblem.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation announced a donation of 500 million naira to the Nigerian Legion. It's expected that Nigerians will also join in donating to the fund. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, Nigerian entrepreneur and philanthropist Tony Elumelu on Tuesday joined a host of global business leaders at the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to discuss some of the world's pressing concerns, including high cost of living, sustainability, AI, and healthcare. Hosted by the FII Institute, founded by Saudi's Public Investment Fund, the focus for this year's event is on how investment can serve as a catalyst for a prosperous and sustainable future. Our correspondent in the UAE, Mayowa Adibuki, reports.
So Waiter's Full Circle Opera Company sets the tone for conversations about some of the world's most pressing issues.
Today we call on each of you to be the leaders who do not see the world as it is, but that it could be.
Rising cost of living globally, sustainability, energy transition, as well as the impact of technology and AI on healthcare and human well-being are being discussed by global business and government leaders at the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative, holding in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
On the African continent, over 50% of the continent do not have access to electricity. Without access to electricity, Africa cannot industrialize. Without industrialization on the continent, jobs will not be created.
One of such leaders is Nigeria's Tony Elumelu, who brings an African perspective to a panel conversation alongside prominent global financiers. He emphasizes the importance of power to facilitate wealth creation for Africa's young population.
One side, I see people, on the other side, I'm scared. I'm scared, about the challenges that I see if we don't do something. All of us must hold ourselves accountable. Private sector leaders, government, rest of Africa, everyone realizing that poverty anywhere is affect all of us everywhere. And if you fail to do something now, it's going to turn like riding the tiger. It can devour you. So that is the challenge I see.
A few young Nigerian entrepreneurs are also here to further shape the African narrative, as well as seek new opportunities and investors.
In here, we've been able to get maybe in gross for the past, I think, we've been able to get about 50K USD generally sending some returns to Nigeria, to Africa, and actually trying to sponsor those children who need to take it. We need more. This is why we came here. We need to do more for our country, home country.
Right now, Saudi Arabia is leading the way when it comes to investment in combat sports. They've been doing some great things with boxing, with MMA. So again, it was just to come and show we're here, come and represent Nigeria, come and show what we're doing. And more generally, just beat the drum for the work we're doing. And as I said, we had exciting news in terms of our investment from Silverback, so also to announce that.
Themed Infinite Horizons, Investing Today, Shaping Tomorrow. The three-day event hosted by the FII Institute will not only facilitate conversations, but drive global leaders to act in the best interest of humanity. From Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, Maya Wadigoke for Channels Television News.
Coming back home now, a new library has opened up in Lagos and will be serving the deaf community. The library is a brainchild of IFA Reading Society in partnership with Ford Foundation. It's a major achievement for IFA as it supports inclusive education for all. Take a look. Caring for children with special needs is no easy task, whether or not there are funds to meet their needs. Visionaries like IFA Reading Society are looking beyond problems of the physically challenged. It is gifting a library to a school for the deaf in Lagos to promote literacy of these individuals with special needs.
Society open.
Located inside Hope Fountain Schools for the Deaf in Ijayojokoro, Lagos, the library is equipped with books covering all topics, all genre, encyclopedia, and computers to aid educational needs of the students. President of IFA Reading Society, who's also Vice Chancellor of the Pan-Atlantic University, Professor Enase Okonedo, says everyone should be afforded the opportunity to pursue their education to higher levels despite physical challenges.
A situation in which those that are differently abled are unable to gain the full benefits of an education, in this instance through the lack of a library, was something that we needed to do something about.
Ford Foundation, which provided funding for the library from a small grant pool, says it is big on dismantling inequality across the board.
We are very particular about, dismantling inequality across board, and this is, one of our efforts to ensure that children have access to books and to read and become better, versions of themselves.
An overjoyed founder of Hope Fountain School, Mr. Tony Wokolo, a member of the deaf community in Lagos, thanked IFA and Ford Foundation through an interpreter.
Very big, great thing that you did for this school. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ford Foundation. Thank you, IFA. Thank you, IFA Foundation. Thank you very much. Professor, we are so grateful. Thank everyone here. Thank you so much. He's so happy.
The library had been a cherished dream of his for the past 20 years. Now, it's a reality. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
And
as we end the program, a Chinese spacecraft with a 3-person crew, including the country's first female space engineer, see if you can spot her there, has docked after a journey of more than 6 hours. The crew will use the homegrown space station as a base for 6 months to conduct experiments and carry out spacewalks as Beijing gathers experience and intelligence for its eventual mission to put someone on the moon by the year 2030. The crew will use the the astronauts, of the Shenzhou 19 manned spaceship met with their Shenzhou 18 colleagues after arriving at the Tiangong space station earlier today, starting a new round of in-orbit crew handover. Beijing has declared the launch of Shenzhou 19 a complete success, saying it's one of the 100 launches China plans in a record year of space exploration as it tries to outdo its rival the United States. They must have been walking on air when they got back. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Nanju Ivani.